Meghan McCain, host of Citizen McCain and daughter of the late, great Senator John McCain. Meghan, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I understand Gaydos is out, so we can have fun without him.
like it's nobody's business. Steve Goldstein in for Gaydos today, all right? So,
nice to meet you, Steve.
Thank you, Meghan.
Meghan, let's just start with this. We're coming up on 1 month of a government shutdown.
I know.
We had a conversation about, do many people notice? Does the average person on the street care one way or the other? Is there any sign of this breaking? Is there any sign of pressure is getting to members of Congress?
No, in fact, I just saw an interview with Chris Murphy where he was like, this is a really poor reflection of Trump. And, respectfully, it's Democrats who are shutting down the government right now. And I think it's horrible for everybody. I saw a video on social media of people waiting in soup lines that were in military uniforms. And it's like, when we're not paying our military and our first responders and people who work, in national parks and things, it's a disgrace. And I don't understand why members of Congress are still being paid. Like, if the military is not being paid, then you shouldn't be paid as well. And I think that law should change as soon as the government opens.
Listen, I don't disagree, but as you and I both know, there's plenty of members of Congress that couldn't care less about what it pays. You make a heck of a lot more money doing the other stuff.
I obviously, and there's a lot of people that make a lot of money off of, trading and things like, a lot of wealthy people in Congress, but I still think the principle of it would probably make people feel better.
Meghan, I think Kamala Harris is still out there selling her book, and I think that's why we heard from her this weekend.
Yeah.
So this is probably a question you've had to have been asked way too many times, but I've got to ask it again then. So she brought up the fact that there's going to be a president of the U.S. in the future who is a woman, and it could possibly be her. So first of all, is she crazy to think it could be her? And secondly, what is it going to take? What sort of, is it going to be the elusive, quote unquote, moderate Republican woman who's going to win? Who's going to be able to win over a majority of our public and win the Electoral College votes and be the first female? What qualities is she going to have?
Well, if you go by global history, in a lot of countries, it's actually a conservative woman who ends up being the first president or prime minister of leaders in many countries, which I think is just a fascinating, factoid anecdote.
Mm-hmm.
I think Kamala Harris's book tour has been very uncomfortable because, I understand her messaging and her argument is that I only had 107 days, but the American public knows who Vice President Harris is. We knew who she was when she was vice president. When she ran for president the first time, lest us all forget, she couldn't even make it out of the Iowa caucus. She dropped out before that even happened. She's not a particularly strong politician, and she seems still very uncomfortable with herself. She goes back and forth on things. She recently came out in support of Palestine and the Gaza-Israel war, which is something that the base of the Democrat Party is very passionate and energized about. Something a politician wouldn't have to read the tea leaves now to make that decision. She always makes decisions when it's popular and the water's fine.
Mm-hmm.
She has to focus herself within an inch of her life. I do not believe she will be the first woman president. That's not a knock against a woman becoming president. I just don't believe it's her. I interviewed a friend of mine today who is working with the Mom Donnie campaign, and if you can believe it, I have friends who are on the far left. I do. I'm a multifaceted human being.
That you are.
But the energy and the base of the Democrat Party is with these kind of candidates right now. It's with these raw meat red progressives, and I think there's a frustration among Democrats that we let you pick Hillary, we let you pick Biden, who again had to be bailed out in South Carolina in the primaries, lost 4 primaries before he ended up, having Congressman Clyburn bail him out. I think the idea that the Democrat Party would go back to Vice President Harris is just respectfully really delusional.
I don't disagree. Anything's possible, I guess. The way she said it. I could be. Yeah, you could. It's a number greater than zero,
Bruce
but not by much.
Exactly. Respectfully,
it could happen.
Sure.
Yeah. It could happen. We're talking to Meghan McCain. It's Mondays with Meghan. So, Meghan, help me out with this. First, it started with Steve Bannon suggesting that there is going to be a third Trump presidency and that the plans are being laid and it will be revealed. It was very kind of mysterious the way he did it. But then Trump was talking apparently during this trip that he's on, and he seemed to. Well, he didn't exactly deny it, but he seemed to say the plan sounded silly. Where are we on this?
Steve Bannon, I think it's worth noting that Steve Bannon, by all reports, hasn't spoken to President Trump since his assassination attempt.
Oh, wow.
He is a felon who has been released and pardoned from jail, but he does not work in the Trump White House. Again, this is reporting. This isn't me gossiping. He is not part of Trump's inner circle.
He used to be. He was the first one. He was right there in there. Yeah.
Yes, in the first administration he was. That doesn't mean that, he doesn't have some kind of relationship with Trump, but he's not like Stephen Miller or someone or Stephen Chong, like someone who's like in his orbit every day. So I don't think of him as a reliable actor when it comes to speaking for anything Trump related. He also just sounded, quite frankly, like a crazy drunk person at an airport bar in that interview. He just sounded insane. He's like, we would break the Constitution and, this is something that can happen. It's not something that can happen. In fact, just before I came on your show, I read a tweet that came across my transom that was Trump was saying that Vance Rubio would be an unstoppable ticket. There's a lot of reporting, including from Brett Baer today, that Trump doesn't want to run again if this delusion fantasy that Trump wanted to run for a third term somehow in some universe, which I just don't believe it would happen, started coming to fruition. I think even the most MAGA diehard Republicans would not get on board with it. It would be an absolute constitutional crisis. And I just don't think President Trump wants it. Like he's, respectfully, he's almost 80, I believe. And, that's not young. And I do think it's time for a generational shift. And I do not believe Steve Bannon. And I think he's looking for media attention. And I felt really bad for that foreign reporter interviewing him because she looked like horrified and very confused.
Yeah, like, what is this guy talking? Well, she should have known, though. I'm sitting down with an absolute lunatic.
Fair.
God only knows what's going to come out of his mouth. Now, I will say this. There was the Trump 2028 hat sitting on the desk in the White House.
I know. I hate that hat.
So
and
Trump's just trolling.
Wearing it. That is what, again, that's what Brett Baer told me literally today on my show, that it's just, he likes getting the left's blood pumping and getting people talking about it. But I don't like it. I don't like this kind of joke. Again, it makes my friends who don't follow politics incredibly anxious and confused. I don't like joking about screwing with the Constitution. I don't like anything about it. And I don't like those hats, and I don't think anyone should be wearing them. The president, Lindsey Graham, anybody else, I think they're stupid. And, I don't believe it's going to happen, but I don't like joking around about it either.
10-4.
All right, Meghan, let's go back to the wacky socialist Democrats. I follow you on X, and so I saw what you posted today about if Mamdani wins the New York City mayor's race, that he should be campaigning in swing states. Dems want this to be the future. Own it. He's your new face. So I just want to pick at you a little bit on that, only because of this. New York City's massive, but it hasn't typically been the place that national Democrats look to when they're trying to appeal to folks. I mean, you think about
candidates aren't coming out of there.
Like Clinton and Obama, who are actually the only successful Democrats have been in the last probably 25, 30 years. So do you think the average Democrat in Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina actually thinks Mamdani represents their views in any way?
So I was sort of being tongue-in-cheek,
in
the sense that you have Mayor Pete coming out saying, I think he has the potential to be a great mayor. And Mayor Pete's reputation is this sort of guy who'll go on Fox News, is middle of the road, I'm from South Bend, blah, blah, blah. But I do think, and again, I don't presently live in Arizona, but I'm from Arizona. If you put someone like Mamdani on the campaign trail with either of Arizona's senators, I do not think it would go over well in many parts of the state. Part of the reason people like particularly Senator Kelly so much is he is someone who is more moderate, more mainstream, level-headed, more representative of a state like Arizona. But again, what we just were talking about a moment earlier, I don't know how you run away from this. And again, he's someone who appeared in an event with someone who had been accused of helping plot a terror attack against the World Trade Center before 9/11, a mom that has a very controversial background. There's lots of videos of his dad saying he hates America, and he had a band president named Hassan Piker at his rally just yesterday who said America deserved 9/11. You're trafficking in things that most mainstream normal Americans on any level of the spectrum think are unacceptable. But I don't know what you do with him because he is so popular with the base, meaning Hakeem Jeffries just endorsed him. Hakeem Jeffries is the head of the Democrat Party, I mean, in name only, whatever, but he is. And I just don't know what you do, because if you reject him, you're going to be treated like John Fetterman. And if you embrace him, you're going to turn off any single, I would just say, mainstream Democrat, center left, center right, certainly Republican person. And he's going to be a bigger problem. It's not that I think he's like representative of the party. It's that, like, what do you do with this level of the base that has all the enthusiasm and all the oxygen right now?
Yeah. Well, and maybe a lot of the money behind him, because really that's really what greases the wheel, right? Yeah. Meghan, thank you for your time today. We sincerely appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, real
Thank
quickly.
You. It's a pleasure speaking with you.
Real quickly. Oh, no. How's Mom?
She's much better. Thank you very much for asking. She's about to leave the hospital. Very, very happy about that. And I really appreciate everyone being so kind and, checking in on her. So thank you so much, Bruce.
She's an amazing lady as well. Believe me. We all know that. We all know that. Thank you so much.
Much more liberal than me. It makes for interesting conversation.
Exactly. It's the spice of life, Meghan. Have a wonderful, wonderful night.
You too. Thank you guys so much.
Bye.
All right. That is Meghan McCain. We do it every Monday at 5 o'clock. We talk to Meghan McCain. Again, she's a host of the Citizen McCain podcast and obviously the daughter of the late John McCain and of Cindy McCain, who's recovering from a stroke and doing much better. We're so glad to hear that from her.
Thanks for watching Outspoken with Bruce and Gaydos. Tap to watch more from KTAR News and click the button in the middle to subscribe.